Okay, this is my final Unity project for Assessment 3, and as you can see, it's sort of a hellish landscape. I didn't create any of the assets myself. They're just from the Unity store. That's why the geometry is a bit of a mess, because I've just mashed everything together. But I did program all the shaders myself. So we'll just hop into game mode. Okay, so you walk down this tunnel, and here's the first shader. It's just a crystal, and you can see it's bobbing up and down and it's spinning around. It's sort of like a collectible, like a Crash Bandicoot era crystal. And then we've also got this lava. The lava's just following a wave pattern, and it's also, the brightness of it's also changing, and it's got a scrolling texture on it. And then we've got this portal, which has some sort of trippy pattern that's just running in the background. And yeah, that's the scene. So now I'll just hop into the shader code and we can have a look at it. So I used ShaderGraph to make these three shaders because it's a lot easier than programming the raw HL, SL, and it's pretty powerful too. So if you want to have a look at the shaders, they're just in this folder called shaders in the assets, and we'll hop over to the lava now and take a look at it. Alright, so this is the vertex shader for the lava, and it just starts with this position node, and you have to set it to object space because that literally just takes the local space of all the vertices so you can modify their coordinates. So you split that into X, Y, and Z, and then you take the X positions and you just run them through this, which is basically just a sine wave with parameters so you can control it in the inspector. So you've got amplitude to control the height of the wave, you've got frequency to control the wavelength, and then you can multiply the time by another parameter. I'll just call it speed, so how fast the waves go. So the output of all of this just goes into the y component of a new vector 3 because it's just going to be, the height is the thing that's oscillating, and then you just hook up the x and the z so it knows where all the other coordinates are, and then that goes into the vertex shader. Alright, so this is the fragment shader for the lava. So essentially you just use scrolling UV coordinates and you wire them into a base and normal map, just the two textures, and then that gets multiplied with a color that's interpolated, so it goes between different brightnesses, and then that just goes into the emission. So with the scrolling UVs, you just have a speed and you've got a time, and this tiling and offset node will just offset the UVs, so then you can plug that into these textures and you can see they're scrolling, and then you just use this lerp node that will go between these two HDR colors, and when you put it all together you get this, which is the scrolling lava texture that changes brightness. Alright, so now we'll have a look at the portal texture. Alright, so this is the portal shader. There's no vertex shader, it's just a fragment shader because it's just a flat plane that has these sort of color manipulations. And the way I did this was just by basically screwing with UV coordinates until I got something that looked cool. So first of all, I'm just taking time and sine of time because I need both of those inputs for these UV nodes. So this one just rotates a texture, and this one, it's sort of hard to see, but this one just wraps and unwraps the texture. So when you multiply these two UV maps and just put in some random texture, you get this effect here. And then I also added Voronoi noise. So this is just, Voronoi is just a beehive looking effect, just using a noise texture to get this interesting looking pattern. And then I combined it with this other node. So then you just get this. Well, it's a bit laggy, but you can see it in the project files, and then just color it. So use the same lerping logic as the lava and put the final texture into the fragment shader. Alright, so this is the vertex shader for the crystal, and as you can see in the preview, the crystal bobs up and down and it also rotates continuously. So for the bobbing, the setup's actually pretty similar to the way that the we got the lava to oscillate. So we take the position of all the vertices in object space. The difference is in the lava we took x as an input and then we outputted y, making y a function of x in terms of where the vertices are. So this time we just need to take y as an input and y as an output, and we're just using sine with a bobbing speed to change the y coordinates and get the bobbing happening. Then for the rotation, it just needs an increasing float. So we just get that from time, and then we can put it into this rotate about axis node, which is going to compute the rotation, and this here is the bobbing, and then that goes into the vertex shader. And then for the fragment shader, I couldn't actually find a texture for the crystal, so I thought I'd just try to make one myself. And the way I did that was just by modifying all of these PBR parameters in the graph inspector box up here. And I also added a Fresnel effect to try to get a bit of a glow around the edge of the crystal. And it sort of worked, but you can have a look at it yourself. So you can see it's just this tinted edge, and that goes into the emissions component. So this color is slightly brighter than this color, which is the base color. And then you just have to modify the smoothness parameters, which will make it look a bit shinier. And then you can also modify the alpha channel, which is the transparency, and you get the crystal. All right, thanks for watching.